Hello and welcome to the second Talon One Fighter Squadron tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about different munitions and the countermeasures for said munitions. So one of the most common munitions you're going to be using is the MMR-S3. This is an IR missile that is heat-seeking. So the countermeasures for this essentially are to, one, you can dodge behind mountains. Mountains and other hills are very useful for avoiding missile lock-on and breaking lock. The other one is going to be using your flares. So if the missile is coming straight head-on at you, going off left or right about 45 degrees while utilizing the flares and also making sure that your thrusters are completely turned off will give you the best chances of losing the lock as fast as possible. The last thing you want to do on a heat-seeking missile is turn around 180 degrees, as your thrusters will be facing right towards the missile's flight path, making you very easy to lock on. So the next one we're gonna go over is the AAM-29 sight. This is a radar missile. This is also, in brevity, we would call this a Fox 3. This is an active radar missile, meaning that it does not need communication from the aircraft once it has left. It can guide its way all on its own. All bombs, missiles, and whatnot in nuclear option are fire and forget, meaning that once the munition has left your plane, it does not need your plane's guidance after that. So you can deselect a target once it has been locked on after you fire the munition, and it will still guide its way to its intended target. The two ways really to counter these missiles, well, three, is to again hide behind cover, break the radar lock for at least 2 seconds. The next one is going to be going below, I believe, 50 to 70 feet sea level. That's going to make it to where you are blind to the radar, and you'll break the lock on it. While also utilizing the radar jammer at the same time will give you the best chance of avoiding being hit. The last one is going to be a technique called radar notching, which is going to be flying 90 degrees in relation to the path of which the missile's flying at you. So if the missile's flying straight at you head on, turning left 90 degrees will put you in a blind spot to where the radar will not see you. The radar missile will no longer see you. And once you break that path for 2 seconds, dive down, and now the missile will have to relock onto you again. The AGM-48. So this is a air-to-ground missile. So this is the smaller variant of the air-to-ground missiles. So these are going to take up a lot of the small ground targets. It will take out most of all vehicles in one shot with the AGM-48s. Some of the very heavily armored vehicles will need two. Ground-to-ground missiles, so this is not something we launched, this is going to be something shot by a ground vehicle. AGM-68s, so these are going to be the big boys of the air-to-ground missiles. So both of them are optically guided missiles, so they're not heat-seeking and they're not radar. They're both optically guided. So the AGM-68 is going to be using for destroying large buildings and heavily armored vehicles, those vehicles we were talking about that cannot be taken out in one shot with the AGM-48s. Okay, next one we're going to go over is the PAB-250. These are going to be optically guided bombs. It's a 250 kilogram bomb, and this is going to be used against heavily armored vehicles and small buildings. The GPO-500, same thing, but it's a 500 kilogram bomb instead, taking out convoys and large buildings. The Auger, so the Auger is a bunker-busting gravity bomb. So essentially what this means is that the hardened aircraft shelter is the only building in the game, I believe, that you have to use these on besides a nuke. And that is because the bunker buster will penetrate the ground will essentially just bury itself very far into the ground, allowing it to destroy those heavily fortified bunkers. Okay, next one we're going to be going over, this is one of my favorites, the PAB-80LR. This is a glide bomb. So again, it is also optically guided, but it does not have an IR signature because it's not using any sort of propellant, and it also has a small radar cross section. So these are very good bombs for getting kills in areas that have a lot of ways to intercept your incoming munitions. So these are good because you can also drop these from farther away. About 5 kilometers is about the distance I've been able to drop them. This has also increased the survivability by being able to drop it farther and being able to scram after deployment. The ALM C450, this is a cruise missile. This flies incredibly low and hugs the terrain. So when you launch this, I try to launch this over like a semi-low flight path, so then it can hug that low terrain and get to where it's going. These are good against ships as well in large numbers. The ALN-D4 is a cruise missile, but this is a nuclear 20 kiloton nuclear cruise missile. Demolition bomb, this is going to be essentially like our Moab. This is the biggest bomb we have that is not nuclear. Ram 45s, these are going to be shot at us from the Ram launchers. So essentially, these can shoot our aircraft up to 15 kilometers away and rely on radar. Stratolance R9 is another radar missile. These things can shoot extremely far across the map, and you will be likely targeted even from very, very far distances. The AGR-18 Linchpin, this is a Gator Crown rocket. The Cricket can hold lots of these, and is very good for taking out convoys. Our GPON 1.5 KT, this is our nuke, our 1.5 kiloton nuke, and our 250 kiloton nuke. So really, obviously besides the yield, the explosion is much bigger. The differences is going to be, this has a delay of 16 seconds when below 1,600 feet, and this is going to have a delay of 8 seconds. So meaning if you drop it below that altitude, it's going to have that delay. The ARAD-116. This is an anti-radiation missile and is good for locking onto SAM sites and things that are beyond visual range. So when attacking like a radar station, these things are really good for attacking radar stations, as the radar station is emitting that radar, and the anti-radiation missile will lock onto that, and it can go extremely far. The IRM, this is a heat-seeking missile, only good for up to about 5 kilometers. This is also on the Cricket. That is the end of the Talon One Fighter Squadron tutorial on munitions and countermeasures used against such munitions.